Macmillan Audio presents The White Cascade by Gary Krist. Read for you by Robert Fass. Prologue. A Late Thaw. Summer 1910. The last body was found at the end of July, 21 weeks after the avalanche. Workmen clearing debris from the secluded site, high in the cool, still snow-flecked Cascades, discovered the deteriorating corpse in a creek at the mountainside's base. Trapped under piles of splintered timber, the dead man had to be Archibald MacDonald, a 23-year-old brakeman, the only person on the trains not yet accounted for. Bill J. Moore was on the wrecker crew that found him. Moore's team was one of many that had been grappling with the hard, ugly work at Wellington over the previous 5 months. For the first few days following the avalanche, after the storm had finally tapered off and the isolated town could be reached, the men had done little but dig for victims in the snow. Bodies were scattered all over the mountainside, some buried as deep as 40 feet. Once located, they had to be piled up, like cordwood in 4x4 stacks, and carried to a makeshift morgue in the station's baggage room where they could be identified. Wrapped in blankets and tied to rugged Alaskan sleds, they'd been evacuated in small groups, each sled maneuvered by 4 men with ropes, 2 ahead and 2 behind, in silent procession down to their mourning families. After the dead were gone, the crews had turned to opening and fortifying the right-of-way, blasting away acres of compacted snow and timber, laying the groundwork for huge concrete shelters to protect the rail line from future snowslides. Temporary spur tracks had been built along the side of the ravine so that the wreckers could begin their recovery work. Some of the train equipment, like the heavy steam and electric locomotives, had been only lightly damaged, but the wooden mail cars, sleepers, and passenger coaches were completely shattered. Each scrap had to be hoisted back up to the tracks and carted off on a flat car. The job had taken weeks. All that remained in the ravine afterward, strewn among rocks and ravaged trees, were a few twisted metal pipes, a ruptured firebox door, a woman's torn, high-buttoned shoe. For 19-year-old Bill Moore, the unearthing of the final victim would mean yet another funeral to attend, yet another lost friend to lay to rest. Moore had often worked with Archie Mac MacDonald, a fellow brakeman. The Great Northern Railway's Cascade Division was full of men like Moore and MacDonald. Regarded as something of a hardship post, the division was often avoided by those with the seniority to land positions elsewhere, and it employed more than its share of young rookies. Rootless and unattached, they had to find family wherever they could. So Moore, like many others, had found it among his fellow railroaders. There was a good reason why railway unions were called brotherhoods. Trainmen in the age of steam regarded themselves as a breed apart, united by their rough and highly specialized work. In this remote, dangerous territory, where the daily battle against the elements required the highest levels of teamwork, trust, and personal sacrifice, these bonds were especially strong. For the men of the Cascade Division, the Wellington disaster thus represented the decimation of an entire close-knit community. Although newspaper reports had given far more ink to the train's lost passengers, business leaders, women, and children made better copy. Nearly 2/3 of the fatalities had come from a relatively small population of trainmen, railway mail clerks, and track laborers. Among them had been several whom Moore considered close friends. To those who had escaped, one question was unavoidable. Why them and not me? On the night of the avalanche, Moore had been down at Skykomish Station, at the foot of the mountain.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?